Think back to when you were in elementary school. Do you remember sitting at your desk daydreaming about the delicious food your mom packed in your lunch that day, or even felt yourself craving the cafeteria food out of boredom? Or were you the person to think about recess and the game you wanted to play with your friends that day instead of focusing your mind on your teacher and her lesson? Whatever the case may be, I'm sure we have all become distracted, or maybe still get distracted during school from sitting at our desks for an extended period of time without any break to refocus ourselves on the lesson. For this reason, I plan to study the effects of a brain break on students' off-task behavior. Specifically, I want to see whether a short 3 to 5 minute period of movement that is performed prior to math and reading classes has an effect on students' behavior. From looking at previous research, I can see that scholars are concerned about the lack of movement in the classroom as well. The studies I reviewed span from the elementary school to the college level, showing that students of all ages are suffering from sitting at a desk throughout the day with minimal breaks. In two separate studies by Mahar et al. 2006 and Mikhail, Bray, and Rogers 2018, elementary students participated in a 10 to 15 minute physical activity session prior to class. Once the exercising concluded, their behavior was observed for a period of 30 minutes in one study and 45 minutes in the other. Results showed that the physical activity sessions improved student behavior, indicated by the higher number of on-task behaviors counted by the researchers after exercising. Metcalf, Marshall, and Roden 2006 extended on this research by examining the effects of physical education on the behaviors of high school students with emotional behavioral disorder, or EBD. Students with EBD often act out in class through speaking out of turn, ignoring instruction in work, and act aggressively, among other behaviors. This study demonstrated that physical activity prior to a lesson diminishes many of the inappropriate behaviors performed by students with EBD, increasing their focus during class. The research I examined places an unrealistic goal on teachers, noting that they need to give their students 10 to 15 minutes of exercise time at school. It is not unrealistic in the fact that they can commit a short portion of their day to exercising, but allowing students to move for 10 minutes prior to each lesson in order to see more on-task behavior is taking away valuable academic time. I want teachers to understand the importance of implementing exercises in the classroom and not shy away because of the amount of time required. Therefore, I am seeking to discover the effects of a 3 to 5 minute brain break on behavior so that students can refresh their minds prior to a lesson without using too much of the class time. As a future teacher, I would be more willing to have my students move around the room for 3 minutes each time I see a decrease in attention instead of leading the class in a 10-minute exercise if the shorter time produces the same results. Based on the purpose for doing this study, the questions that guide my research are: 1. How will implementing a brain break before a math class affect the student's time on task during the lesson? 2. How will implementing a brain break before a reading class affect the student's time on task during the lesson? 3. Will there be a difference in the effects of brain breaks seen on the behavior of male and female students? To answer these questions, I will conduct my study in a 3rd grade class at Croswell Elementary School, which is located in Pickens County School District, a rural community in the upstate of South Carolina. The participants will be approximately 24 students in the 3rd grade class. All students in the class and their families will be notified about the study prior to its beginning to ensure consent among all participants. Students who choose to participate will be observed once every week for 4 weeks in order to obtain both control and experimental data. The 1st and 3rd weeks will be the control, where students do not engage in a brain break prior to a math or reading lesson, while the 2nd and 4th weeks involve students participating in a 3 to 5 minute brain break before the lesson. There will be 3 observation periods every week, and 8 students will be picked for an observation each day. Students will be observed for 10 seconds at a time, and 5 seconds immediately following the observation will be used to record any off-task behavior committed by the student. In my observations, I am looking for students that commit the off-task behaviors that Godwin et al. 2016 categorizes in their study. These behaviors include self-distraction, peer distraction, environmental distraction, walking, or other, and will be documented on the observation paper. After all of the observations conclude, I will calculate the percentage of time the class spends off task during a lesson containing a brain break prior to instruction, as well as no brain break before the lesson. These results will determine the effectiveness of brain breaks, and I will either continue using them in my classroom or minimize their usage based on the student's behavior. As teachers, we want to do what is best for our students, so I will implement the strategy that stimulates the most on-task student behavior during my lessons.